I'm sitting down with Lois Hokana. It's March 17th, and we're ready to start our interview. So, can you tell me where you were born, Lois?
I was born in Dover, New Hampshire.
Dover, New Hampshire.
Mm-hmm.
What year?
1924.
24.
A few years ago.
Yeah. Just a few.
Mm-hmm.
Can you tell me what your earliest memory is?
My earliest memory. Boy, I was just thinking about it the other day. The place where we lived in Dover, New Hampshire, had what we call in those days sandboxes.
Okay.
They made boxes and brought sand from the beach, the ocean, ocean sand, and I can remember playing in that. And we didn't haul the sand up. We didn't throw it around. We just it was regular beach sand. So it was nice sand. I guess that's about the earliest I remember. And I would have been 3.
3. Did you have any brothers and sisters?
I had one brother and one sister.
Okay. Were you the youngest of the family?
I was the middle.
The middle.
Yeah. My brother was the youngest. My sister was the oldest. And she was mentally challenged.
Okay.
But my brother was very bright. He was an engineer. He'd been in the Navy. Had been to Taiwan, all those places in the Pacific. He had an interesting life.
So was that hard on your family, having an older sister who was mentally challenged?
Oh, yeah. It limited some things. But she was always willing to help, do whatever you wanted. We have one here in this building that just follows you around wherever you say. That was my sister. Whatever you wanted.
So what did your parents do out in New Hampshire?
My dad was a chiropractor.
Okay.
And he had a really good practice. And my mother was just a homemaker.
Homemaker?
She was a good cook, a good seamstress, talented in many ways. And she came from a large family. The oldest of 8 kids.
8.
And lost her parents young. And yeah, I really had good parents. I was truly, truly blessed. Good family.
It sounds like you had a very nice life out in New Hampshire.
I did. We went to the beach often. We didn't live too far from the beach. The ocean. Loved it. Loved it. And in fact, we used to, in later years, my parents would rent what they called a cottage. Well, it was always more than a cottage at the beach. And I loved it. I loved it. I loved the beach, loved the ocean. And in several years we had a cottage at the lake, a lake cottage. I like the water. I learned to swim early. I got my life savings badge when I was 15.
Quite young then.
Yeah.
So, did you go to school out in Dover? Did you
Oh, yeah.
attend your elementary school and your...
I was there until the end of 6th grade. Then my parents moved to D.C.
Washington, D.C.?
Yeah. And so I started 7th grade there. And graduated from high school in D.C. Went to George Washington University. I didn't graduate. But I got in almost 4 years. I don't know why I didn't. Can't remember why I didn't finish.
So what was it like living out in D.C.? You were next to all the action and the political...
That was during the war that I lived there. Lots of dates because of the war. There were a lot of servicemen in town. And my parents were very welcoming. You know, I could bring the guys home for dinner, and they loved that. You know, being in the service, they ate at the mess hall, unless somebody like me invited them to their homes. My parents were really very open-armed.
And then when you were in D.C., did he still have his practice open?
No, he didn't. No, he worked for the government.
Okay.
And he worked there for, how many years? He retired from the government. And when he retired, what did we do? We still lived there. Yeah.
So what were you, when you were at George Washington University, what were you studying?
What did I study? I can't remember. I just kind of took a general course.
Okay, generals.
Yeah, mostly. Yeah, anything that struck my fancy.
What were your interests at the time? What did you like to do in your spare time?
In the spare time? Well, we did a lot of sightseeing. I mean, in D.C., there's so many interesting spots to visit with all the museums and all the touristy things. And because we lived there, we had a lot of company from out of the area. And it was always us, my family, that showed them around. We were the tour guides for the company. That was fun. My parents were very hospitable. So yeah, we had some good times. When you live there like that, and then of course you get to the museums often. So I knew my way around the museums. And yeah. I had my favorite areas in the museums too. I like the prehistoric. They had these big dinosaurs things. Look at, ooh, ooh. Yeah, it was.
So, what was life for your family like during the war? Was it harder? Did you do okay during the war?
I think so. My dad was not practicing chiropractic. He was in the government. He had been in the government before he went to chiropractic school. So when things got kind of tough, then he went back into the government. And that's what we were doing in D.C. And we left over. When we left over New Hampshire, I really missed Dover because it was a small town, and we had a lot more freedom than we did in D.C. But it was a good life. It was a good life. I had a good childhood. I think a perfect childhood. I had loving parents, relatives that loved me, and I loved being close to the beach, the ocean. And during the war, they rationed gas, and so we were very frugal with our trips. And then we rent in the summertime. Some of the summers, we rented a lake cottage, and my parents always got waterfront cottages right on the water. We liked that. So the first thing in the morning, you could put your swimsuit on and dive in the lake. Nice memories. Yeah.
So, where did you go after you were? Did your family move again once you were in D.C.?
No. That's where I said I finished. I was in the 7th grade when we moved to D.C. And that's the first year of junior high school. They didn't have that in New Hampshire. So I started junior high school, and then high school, and college. And because I lived in D.C., I just commuted for college. That made it cheaper. I didn't have a car.
Oh.
I never had a car. I didn't have a car until we were married. And the guy I married was a farmer from North Dakota. But he stayed, he got a job in D.C. after he got out of the Navy. He got a job, he was a salesman for an automotive wholesaler. And it was turned out to be a really good job. He rose in the ranks of the company. That was a new company. It was started by two friends, and we could have bought into it, but we didn't. And now I think back, maybe we should have.
What was the company called?
Schaefer Corcoran. That was their names. I remember that. They were nice men. I mean, good, honest friends and worked well together. Yep. They were good people. And they liked my husband. My husband was a go-getter.
He liked to take action and get
Yep.
things done?
Yeah, he got things done. Mm-hmm.
And you said he was in the Navy?
Yep.
Did he serve during World War II?
Yep. Yep. In the D.C. area.
Mm-hmm. And what were his job requirements, or what was he responsible for?
Boy, I just can't remember.
Okay.
For some reason, I just can't remember right now. It flew out of my brain.
So, what kind of house did you live in while you were in D.C.?
Well, when we were married, it was really hard to find living quarters in D.C. But my parents had friends that found us a little apartment. So we had an apartment. It was 1 bedroom, and they called them garden apartments because they had a yard, they had a back porch, a screened-in porch.
Oh my.
So, and like D.C. can be hot and humid, but our porch in the evening cooled off. So we'd sit out on the porch in the evening. Sometimes I'd sleep out there. Because that was before air conditioning. I mean, before everybody had air conditioning. And we didn't.
So when you and your husband were out in D.C., did you have a job? Or were you...
I did. I worked in the government. I worked in the Army, finance. I wrote checks. Millions of dollars worth of checks every day. Never one for me. But that was my job, to pay the bills.
Pay the bills?
Pay the bills. And yeah, when I think back of... And if you made a mistake, like even one little mistake on a check, you had to void that.
Oh my.
The checks had to be perfect. I was not a perfect typist. So we voided a lot of checks.
So you typed them out on a typewriter? They weren't handwritten?
Right. No, it was typewriter. Yeah. I wasn't a perfect typist. I don't know how come they got me. Come to think of it.
What's your favorite memory of D.C.?
My favorite memory of D.C. I think it was the sightseeing.
The sightseeing?
We did a lot of the sightseeing, because when we lived there, places that tourists never get to. My parents were really great about sightseeing. And like we would go back to museums and get just one little corner and really dig in and see it, know what we were looking at, and study. Whereas people usually they go just kind of walk through, and no, we knew our way around D.C. and the places that people mostly don't go, like the The Washington Cathedral, that's an Episcopal church, and I'm an Episcopalian. But they've got can't think of what it is. I lost my train of thought. But they've got in the cathedral they had the cross with Jesus up on the cross. That always awed me for some reason. And we went to a lot of the programs around town. You know, they had a lot of free ones. And we took advantage of those. So we got to see a lot of stuff.
Is that the church you were married in? Is that the church you were married in? The Washington Cathedral?
No. That's big. A small neighborhood one. I was. Yeah.
So you had a small wedding, mostly family and a few friends?
Actually, it was bigger than that.
It was...
Yeah. But it was a neighborhood function. Functioned? Yeah.
What year were you and your husband married?
46. Yeah.
What was his name?
His name was Royal Archie Willard Hokana. And those initials are R-A-W, Raw. And
Was that his nickname?
no,
No.
never used Archie. I didn't like the name Archie. He went by Roy. What was Royal? But he went by the name of Roy. And he was really a good guy. He was a good guy. He was a great dad. And he came from a family of 10. He was the second oldest.
So he was used to a large family?
So he was used to a large family. I wasn't. I had a sister and a brother. And he was used to sharing because he had all those. I wasn't. I had a sister and a brother. I didn't have to share anything. So that was hard when I moved out here to North Dakota. Come in. What was I saying?
You were talking about your husband was used to sharing and you didn't.
Yeah, because of coming from a big family, they always shared. I didn't have to share in my family.
Yeah.
So when I came out here, his sisters expected me to share. We lived with the family, with the folks. And I wasn't used to sharing. So they wanted to wear everything, even my shoes. And I had a narrow foot. And they all had wide ones, so then when I got, after they borrowed my shoes, they didn't fit me anymore. I can remember that was really hard. Come here. Not just me. They're very, very friendly. Oh, I like it here. I wasn't planning on coming here. It was one day they said, "You're moving to the manor." And I said, "What? Why?"
Well, you have a nice room here.
Yeah, I'm glad I don't have a roommate. I mean, I'm not against roommates. I just like it that I can do what I want when I want, and I'm not disturbing anybody. You notice the pictures we got around here?
That must be Carly up there.
Do you know Carly?
Yep, she's just a year older than I am.
She's a whale of a girl. She's just so sweet. And her brother. That's the whole family underneath there.
Yeah.
And actually, that white stripe, right after that picture was taken, we had to hurry to get under cover because the heavens opened up and it just poured. So I don't know why that is white, because it should be dark.
So we were talking about when you moved to Oaks. What year was that? When you and your husband came to North Dakota?
Oh God. Back in '40s. Right now I'm a blank. Right now I can't think of.
Okay. Well, you said you were married in '46, so it must have been sometime after.
Right after that, yeah. Yeah, before we got married, he always said we'd be moving to North Dakota. And would that be all right with me? Well, then when I got closer, I was homesick. Oh, I was really homesick out here. Because none of my family was out here. And my dad had cancer. And I wanted to be with him. But I did go back and stay for a while.
Were you able to get back and see your family often? Or how were you able to communicate?
Well, you know, like nowadays, you pick up the phone and think nothing of calling. It wasn't that. To make a phone call, that was a big deal. That was a big deal. And it would have been a lot easier the way it is now. Because I just pick up the phone and call the kids whenever I feel like it. Where is it? It must be in my back pocket. I call the kids often, or they call me. Think nothing of it. Kids were, the two boys and the one daughter are close here. One daughter's in Massachusetts, and Jean is South Dakota.
Okay.
Belfouche, down that way.
Sure.
She's an anesthetist,
Okay.
and the youngest one is a computer software engineer.
Oh my.
She's pretty smart. The middle daughter is a retired teacher, and the boys are both farmers.
So you got a wide variety of careers then that your children.
Yeah. And the grandson is a farms. One grandson. The rest are girls. And he's a really nice guy, and he's got a nice wife and kids.
So you have some great grandchildren then?
I do. I have two granddaughters adopted from China. The the youngest daughter could not have children,
Uh-huh.
and so they're up there. Pictures are up there. They're both really smart kids.
Well, that's wonderful.
I'm blessed with a really good family.
So how was that, the two granddaughters coming from China, was that difficult? The different cultures and ideas?
They were young enough that they didn't both come at the same time. Got the oldest one, and Carol and Nick, the husband, went to China and got her. And when they brought her back, they'd cut her hair off.
Mm-hmm.
And she looked like a boy.
Oh my.
And I remember the first time I looked at her, she looks like a boy. And then when the youngest one came along, well, the oldest one was born they were both born in China. And they've added a lot to our family. Yeah. Somebody asked, well, how do you feel about having... They're part of the family.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and everybody loves them. So, and that bulletin board has all the... Well, do you know Carly, you said?
Mm-hmm.
Her brother?
Colin? Yep, he was in the play last weekend.
Right.
Wasn't he
I
great?
went, I got to go, yeah. That was so much fun.
They did a great job.
They did. Yeah.
No, my brother was in it too, so I got to go and see him, and he did.
What was he?
He was an extra.
Oh.
But still important.
Oh, yes. You have to have those.
Mm-hmm.
I remember years ago, I tried out for one of those plays. And I got a part. That's when I was out in the park. Grand Rapids.
Oh, sure. The summer theater.
Yeah. That was fun.
It is a lot of fun. What year was that in?
Oh, 100 years ago. I don't remember. That's...
Long time ago?
Yeah.
Did you do other theater activities, or were you just in the one play?
When I was in high school, I was an extra in a play. I was not outgoing.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you know, I would not have been able to do a solo of any kind. No, that wasn't for
No.
me. So.
Would you want to talk a little bit more about when you first moved to Oaks? What was it like for you?
Well, when I came to North Dakota, we were out at Guelph.
Okay. Oh, sure.
That's where his parents lived. And we lived with them for a while. Which was not the best. I was very, very homesick. And, of course, we had the baby, the first baby was born,
Mm-hmm.
Stan. Do you know Stan?
His name sounds familiar, but I can't put a face to it.
Well, he's there if you want to look. But anyway, Stan and John. Do you know John?
I'll have to take a look at I know Cheryl Hokana.
She's married to John.
John's wife, okay.
Mm-hmm. And John is a state representative.
Okay, I think I knew that.
And my husband was too. State rep.
Mm-hmm. So he must have been going back and forth to Bismarck?
Yeah.
Quite a bit?
Yeah. But I told you about that picture there. That's just 5 or 10 minutes after that, the heavens opened up and it just poured. So that white stripe really should be more gray. But boy, did we scramble.
I can imagine.
Yeah.
So were you able to come to Oaks quite often when you lived in Guelph?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. We lived with his folks, so I really didn't have to do any of the grocery shopping or anything like that. But, and of course, he had sisters and brothers living there, so anytime a car came to Oaks or went to Ellendale, you had a car full. Kids would pile in. But it wasn't easy to live in a household full of others.
Mm-hmm.
Wasn't easy at all.
Was it a smaller house?
No, they had a big house.
Big house, but still with so many people running around, it was...
Right. I think the house is still standing, come to think of it. One of the nieces is living in it. That's right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, it's nice that someone's able to still live in it.
Right. Right. Well, when I had my house,
Mm-hmm.
that was out on the farm, we had an extra bedroom. And mostly it was full. Somebody was always there visiting. And I loved it. I loved it. I told you we have the 2 girls adopted from China. And they're both very smart in school. So they fit in my family because all of my kids are smart.
Uh-huh.
Of course they are. They're mine.
Absolutely.
My husband was a very, very smart guy. Very intelligent. And the grandchildren are the ones that put those pictures together.
Mm-hmm.
There's some behind you on that. Look the other way.
My.
Now, what is this for?
We're doing interviews with older people in the community to have...
Are you inferring that I'm older?
Well,
Yes.
you just have a lot of
Yes.
history to share with us, Lois.
No, I am old. I know I'm old. So that's...
Old is relative.
Yeah. So that's... And what are you going to do with that information?
We are kind of revamping the museum uptown. And as part of it, we want to put together histories of people in Oaks.
Oh, how
to
nice.
share with people who come in.
Mm-hmm. Oaks is a good place, I think. They have good people, good schools.
Mm-hmm.
Good teachers.
Oaks it's a good place to live.
It is. It's a good place to raise a family. Yep. Of course, all of my kids graduated from Oaks. Mm-hmm. And then when the normal, let's see, they call it NI, the Normal Industrial School, that was Helendale?
Over, sure.
Some of them went to school there, but I'd have to stop and think, line up my... I heard that. Somebody's outside the door.
So, in later years, did you move to Oaks?
I think.
We're lucky to have the facilities here that...
We are. And they're good employees, good food.
Mm-hmm.
Is it still? It is snowing.
It is snowing. It's
coming straight down, so it must be really wet snow.
It's very wet. Most of it's melting as it hits the ground.
Yeah. Yeah, it won't. Well, I don't think it's supposed to get so cold tonight that it'll turn to ice.
I hope not.
43 or something.
So, do you remember some of the snowstorms from years past in Oaks?
I do. I think it was one of the first ones we were out here. We were snowed in.
In the 64, probably?
64. Let's see. Stan was born. Yeah, it was 64. And then when the oldest daughter was born, she was born in September. We had a hard winter then.
Mm-hmm.
You know, back in those days, we didn't have telephones like we do now. I think it would have been a lot easier for me if I'd had the communication facilities that I have now to call my parents and friends in the neighborhood because the telephone lines always seem to be down.
Oh, I'm sure with...
And I thought, see, I wasn't used to that. I just noticed my sailboat has a boat. That's been missing.
Oh.
Somebody must have found it someplace and
hung it back up for you?
no, the boat part underneath.
Uh-huh. I see what you're saying.
Bought that in Cape Cod. Massachusetts.
Massachusetts. Did you also buy the hot air balloon from Massachusetts too?
That was in New Hampshire. We went in the hot air balloon ride up over New Hampshire, and that was a thrill.
I imagine it must
That
have
was
been.
a thrill. Let's see who was with me. I think my mother was, and there were a bunch of my family in that one. It's so peaceful up there. You don't hear anything.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you hear the flare.
Sure, from
Because, yeah. But look down on the peaceful. I mean, you're not flying fast.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you just get a chance to look around and. I'd go again. I would. I don't think that's going to happen, but
You never know.
it's like a dream. Yeah.
So we were talking about Oaks. Were you able to? Did you have plenty of activities and things to do when you and your husband moved to Oaks, or was it a?
Oh yeah. Well, yeah, because of the clubs and things that I belonged in, and what he did. He played in the community band.
Oh, for the centennial?
Yes, he did. He played all the horns.
Oh, okay, sure.
The tuba.
Oh my.
The kids loved that one. When he'd come, they'd always want to come up and try it. He could really play all the horns.
Mm-hmm.
And he loved it. He loved playing. And he had a tuba. He owned a tuba. And so he had it at home. And he'd get out and toot, you know. Fun. He loved it.
Well, that's good.
And Oaks is a good community.
It's thriving. I mean, Oaks has always done well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And all of my kids graduated from Oaks. Yeah, they got a good education here. And now the grandkids are.
Mm-hmm.
Well, let's see. No, I guess other grandchildren are elsewhere.
So, what's your secret?
My secret?
Your secret.
Why?
How do you stay so sharp? Some people say it's, fresh vegetables every day or eat your Wheaties. What do you think it is?
I don't know. I do eat vegetables. I like vegetables. I watch my diet, but I do like sweets. I do like sweets and chocolate. I'm a chocoholic.
So is that the secret to long life is chocolate?
See if they are? See underneath that Kleenex box?
Yep.
Chocolate. And I'm a diabetic.
Oh,
But I'm careful. I am, and I wouldn't want to upset the apple cart.
no. Well,
But how do you turn diabetic?
I don't know.
I don't know. Well, all of a sudden they tell me I'm a diabetic. How did that happen?
Wow.
Maybe I was just eating sweets and didn't. But I know other people that eat sweets and they don't turn diabetic.
One of medicine's mysteries.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
things have come a long way, medically speaking.
Yes. Well, when you think of penicillin and streptomycin, that fight all those infections, yeah. And think of the scientists that have worked on those to get where we are.
They have a pill to treat almost anything these days.
Right.
And things that years ago might have been no hope, now there are ways to treat it and things they can do to help you, and new things are being discovered every day.
Like tuberculosis. It used to be, that was a death warrant.
Or polio.
Yes. Yes. There was somebody in our area that had polio, a young guy. And, he's still crippled, walks, doesn't walk normally. But before, it used to be polio was a death sentence. Just the doctor's son in Oaks had polio. Dr. Krejci.
Okay. Walter, yeah.
He had a son that had polio. That's a chime clock. I don't know why it's not chiming. That keeps you awake at night.
We have one of those in our house too, a chiming clock, and every hour,
Yeah.
chime.
Well, this is every 15 minutes, actually.
Really?
It just has the one bong for quarter after, 2 for half past, and here they've got the girls' basketball.
But Lois, I do have one more question for you. Is there anything you regret? Anything you wish you would have done differently? Changed?
I was thinking of that the other day, and I thought of something. Can't think of what it was now. Can't think of what it was. Couldn't have been very important. No, I've had a good life. Not always like We didn't always have enough money, but we never went hungry. Kids are healthy, which is a blessing. You raise a healthy family, and there's no criminals.
That's a plus for sure. Well, thank you for your interview. It was very enlightening.
Oh, well, thank you for doing it.
I'm glad I stopped by to see you.